Sugar in the microbiome. It's really simple to demonize sugar because metabolically speaking and as a nutrient, it's quite disruptive. I mean, clearly we have the tools to manage small levels of sugar generally derived from metabolic processes of larger carbohydrates and or microbial fermentation. These are things that we have, but sugar itself, under conditions where we're consuming a ton of it. And what I mean by sugar is the simple sugars, glucose, fructose, dextrose, sucrose. These are all very simple sugars that are found in treats, they're found in processed foods, and they're found in abundance. Clearly, we understand the idea that we have too much exposure to sugar in all of our bad choices of foods, and it's been going on for a bit of time. But what specifically and why does it impact the microbiome in such a negative way, which certainly then impacts our own metabolic, cognitive, immunological functions? I think most of us can comprehend and wrap our mind around the idea that sugar, as it relates to things like insulin and diabetes and all of the metabolic issues, weight gain, resistance, and so on and so forth, we certainly can conceive of this idea that too much sugar, too little protein, too little fats, too little complex carbs is problematic. And what I want to begin with today, though, is a journey that I want to take you through in multiple issues. And remember, if you want to deep dive more, I am, full disclosure, associated with Systemic Formulas and Alimentum Labs. And Alimentum Labs has a YouTube channel, which I hope to do more deep dives into this. And as we journey through just the sugar story, which is really a metaphor for many of the types of nutrients we eat, we start at the mouth. So today I want to begin with the mouth, the oral microbiome. The oral microbiome is a complex, over 700 species of organisms can inhabit our oral cavity. And when it's a healthy oral cavity, creating healthy biofilms, we have so many players there that help us digest food, maintain a healthy salivary output, maintain our enamel, where the salivary glands produce not only fluid to lubricate our food when we chew and eat and digest. There are so many other compounds in our salivary fluid. We've got hormones, many hormones, cortisol, testosterone, estrogen, and so on. There are immunoglobulins, that help us maintain a healthy immune environment with our microbes. We have proteins and electrolytes, calcium for instance, and it helps regenerate our oral cavity or our teeth, the enamel, while it's being degraded by just physical action, physical chewing and physical exertion on our teeth. And this is all a very beautiful dynamic where the salivary glands not only benefit our physiology of our oral cavity, but they maintain a healthy microbiome. And when that is disrupted, and it's a bidirectional, so when we disrupt the oral microbiome, we clearly will be disrupting the benefit of the salivary fluids, the enamel, and of course, the outcome can be quite problematic or quite detrimental. We can encourage the growth of pathogens or pathobionts, and they survive under much more highly acidic conditions, which then erodes our enamel, inflames our gums, and really it disrupts the other microbial communities in that biofilm. And this can be a domino effect because we swallow probably in the order of 43 million organisms a day, meaning individual bacteria. And if you think of that, that's an enormous number of microorganisms that inhabit the oral cavity, but they have to slough off as they grow. And if they're healthy, they transit the esophagus down into the stomach and the intestines. Many of them die in transit because that's not their ideal growing conditions, but they can influence our deeper microbiome, and that can be either a positive or a negative influence. And when these organisms are in a state of dysbiosis, where they're overgrowth of organisms we don't want, like Streptococcus, gingivalis, and others, these organisms can then disrupt our microbiome, and probably even more severely, and you may have heard of this through other research and clinical work, is if they can make it through the intestinal wall, they can circulate in the bloodstream and create problems in heart valves, in our central nervous system, and so on and so forth. So it's really critical that our oral health is a priority, and this priority has and will be influenced by our dietary intake, and therefore sugar. What does sugar do to the microbiome? It's very disruptive. These simple sugars are very disruptive to the microbiome. We really want to reduce exposure to our oral microbiome to these simple sugars, these dextrose, fructose, sucrose, etc. There is a lot less impact with complex sweeteners that are much less sweet, but they're still phenomenal. Natural sweeteners seem to have a lower impact, and we'll get into that in another episode. But simple sugars are very problematic. They create what we call dysbiosis, and they encourage the growth of these more dangerous and overgrowing. So there's that combination of having too much of them, which displace the good organisms, as well as they produce metabolites that are dangerous to your enamel, inflammatory to your gums, meaning that they not only displace good organisms, but they instigate an inflammatory response by the tissues and the immunological cells that are constantly surveying your mouth, trying to keep it healthy. So what are the go forward steps? Clearly reduce the amount of sugar intake. Not just for your own physiology, but for your oral microbiome. That's lesson number one. Number two is maintain your healthy oral microbiome through making sure your salivary glands are producing nicely. And what that means is you should have, under conditions where, let's say, you're getting ready to eat, or you, or in the evening when you're sleeping or when you wake up, that you don't have dry mouth. Anytime you're experiencing dry mouth, address that. And there's a number of ways to do that, but first and foremost is stay hydrated. Make sure you're not breathing through your mouth when you sleep. And if you are, then is there a reason? Do you have something going on with the nasal cavity? Address it. We need to breathe through our nose more often than our mouth. And there's a number of other benefits by breathing through our nose. And then don't eat or consume foods that dry out your mouth without replenishing and allowing that salivary gland to produce enough saliva for you. And then finally, we have what we call the biofilm formations, and you wake up or you forget to brush your teeth and you feel that biofilm forming. Those are all microbes, and we don't want them to not grow, but we need to keep that biofilm at a very healthy level. So use a gentle brushing, and do not use what we call antiseptic techniques, meaning mouthwashes and toothpaste that we know have antiseptic qualities in them, whether they be alcohols or other chemicals that are essentially aseptic, or they kill microorganisms. And I'll try to get a list together and post it for you, but these antiseptic approaches to your mouth are extremely dysbiotic and create an environment that not only kills what you're trying to kill potentially, but it's going to start eradicating the healthy microbiome in the biofilm, and you're setting yourself up for a journey of cyclical, I have cavities, or I have inflammation, and so on and so forth. So we want to avoid antiseptic techniques. Use toothpaste that have all natural ingredients. Use anytime you're just rinsing your mouth, water's fantastic, nice clean filtered water. And then, of course, we don't want to add anything to our mouth, whether it be through any cosmetic or other treats that people suck on. That they can really stimulate the growth of these things, and especially if they have a level of antiseptic quality to them. That's your take-home message. Remember, the microbiome is central to our health. It impacts every part of our body. And join me again next time when we get a little bit more into sugar as it transits our body. Thanks.